Hi guys, welcome back to ToK Today. I've been receiving questions from students around the world, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to bundle some of the most frequently asked questions together and put together this ToK Q&A video. So question number one has been asked by a number of students, including Aaron from India, and that's what makes a good object in the ToK Exhibition? Now this is a very straightforward question to answer because the subject report for May 2022 makes it quite clear what makes a good object. The best objects are ones that have some personal relevance to you, but they also have a knowledge link as well. So the personal relevance should link to the prompt, and it should be about knowledge. So for example, if you're answering the prompt, why do we seek knowledge? And your object is your childhood soft toy. The link is not because it's my favourite soft toy, but the link could be something like, when I first read the label that said Made in Great Britain on the toy, then it led me to start to think about why people would want to know that information, which then led me to think about why people seek knowledge, for example. Sit there, frog. Okay, going back to the original question, what makes a good object? I would say that the object is far less important than the way in which the object is used to explore the knowledge link and the knowledge prompt. And this is a similar answer to what makes a good RLS in the essay, but we'll come on to that in a later video. The second question comes from Abigail in the USA, and she asks whether it's okay to include diagrams in Essay 5, May 23, the essay about visual representations. Now the short answer to this question is yes, it's fine to include diagrams. But the slightly longer answer is, well, why would you want to include diagrams? Let me explain a little. If you include a diagram or a chart, then it's actually your written explanation of that diagram or chart which the examiner will credit, okay? They won't credit the actual diagram or chart itself, it's what you write about the diagram which matters. Now, I would say that if you're writing in such detail about a particular diagram that you have to include that diagram, then you're getting into too much description of the real life situation of the RLS. In this case, the diagram's the RLS. You need to stick to an explanation of the knowledge principles and how knowledge is constructed and how knowledge is interpreted. You don't need to go into such detail about the real life situation, the chart in this situation, that you're having to include that chart to explain it. That's a general view. Of course, there may be exceptions, but that's generally how I would see it. So remember, the prescribed title is about knowledge. It's not about the specifics of the real life situation, the chart in this situation. So focus on trying to establish principles about knowledge production rather than analysing the RLS. I think that this particular prescribed title is about the word helpful rather than the ways in which visual representations may or may not be accurate. I could talk about this for much longer, but we've got 3 more questions to cover here. Next week I'm going to release a video and a blog post all about that word helpful, which should help you to unpack that word in a bit more detail. I'll put my general video about that prescribed title in a card above. Okay, let's move on to the next question. A student in the United Arab Emirates has written to me saying that they need to get a really high score in ToK, but they're worried because their opinion might be different to the examiner's opinion, and then they'll end up with a lower score. So they say, what if the examiner has a different viewpoint to me? Okay, so the first thing is, don't worry. I don't want you to waste energy on anxiety. Okay? If you closely follow your teacher's advice, you should get a good score in ToK. Let's briefly look at the 2 ToK assessments, and you should see that a good score is very achievable. The exhibition is marked by your teacher and moderated by the IB. Very rarely do IB change the score by more than 1 or 2 marks, okay? So therefore, in most cases, what your teacher gives you for the exhibition is the score that you're going to end up with. So again, you need to work closely with your teacher if you want to get a good score in the exhibition. Ask for and listen to their advice frequently and pay close attention to the draft feedback that they'll give you. Okay, let's have a look at the ToK essay. The essay is worth 65% of the marks, so in some ways it's more important. It's marked by an external IB examiner, but the examiners don't mark the essays according to their own personal opinions. They have an assessment rubric that identifies specific things that they're looking for in the essay. And your teacher can give you a copy of this assessment rubric if you ask them for it. It's called the ToK Essay Assessment Instrument, and they should be able to give you that. If you include the things that are specified on the assessment instrument in your essay, then the examiner should give you a good score for the essay. It's as simple as that, okay? There are particular ways to put that essay together, particular ways to include things, to make sure that you include things in that essay so that you're more than likely to get a good score. And your teacher will be able to help you with that, and they can show you how to do that. And I have a set of resources here on ToK Today that can help you with that. Just go to the student support pages. So, student in UAE, good luck with your ToK essay, and don't worry, just follow what your teacher says and you should be fine. The next question I've received from many students in response to my ToK essay guidance videos. And the question is, how do I write counterclaims? So first of all, there's no requirement to include claims and counterclaims in your essay. There is a requirement to explore the prompt and to include knowledge arguments, evaluation, and implications. The use of claims and counterclaims is just a helpful way of structuring the essay to ensure that you meet all of those requirements. It's just a way that most people find helpful. Personally, I think that using claims and counterclaims does work for most students in most essays, so I recommend it. Let's get back to the original question, which is, well, how do I write these counterclaims? I think that this question stems from a belief that the counterclaim should be the exact opposite of the claim, but that's not the case. The counterclaim just has to be a variation of the claim. So, if the claim is that all swans are white, then the counterclaim doesn't necessarily have to be that all swans are black or not all swans are white, but it could be, for example, sometimes some swans are white, or swans are white depending upon their purpose, or swans are white depending upon the person who is categorizing them. Or in some circumstances, some people may categorize some swans as white. The counterclaim can just be a variation of the claim, and that allows you to develop many more counterclaims, which will help you to get a good grade in ToK. And the final question comes from a student after watching my recent video on the ToK subject report. And the question is, do students have access to the subject reports? For those of you who don't know, the subject report is a report that's written by the chief examiner after each examination session, and it includes details of things that they have seen in the previous exam session. It often includes some of the common mistakes that they've seen, but most crucially, it tells us directly what the examiners are looking for when they're marking the exhibition and when they set the essay prompts, how they interpreted those essay prompts in their heads. So it's really helpful to guide us through that somewhat vague assessment rubric. Do students have access to the subject reports? And the simple answer to that is yes, I think so. I haven't seen any guidance from IB saying that students don't have access to the subject reports or saying that students shouldn't have access to the subject reports. ToK teachers who are watching this, then please do advise me if I'm wrong on this. I always give my students access to the subject reports. We do exercises looking at the subject reports so that they can get a better understanding of what they need to put in the exhibition and in the ToK essay. So absolutely, your ToK teacher should be able to give you a copy of the subject report. Okay, well that's it. I hope that you enjoyed the Q&A session. If you did, let me know and I'll do some more of these. If you have questions, then please do send them in and I can include them in future Q&A sessions. All that's left for me to do is to say enjoy your ToK learning and stay ToKtastic. Bye.